The smoke detector's scream pierced through Cassie's sleep 3 seconds before the heat did. Her eyes flew open. Gray smoke rolled across the ceiling like storm clouds. The bedroom glowed orange from somewhere below. Baby kicked hard against her ribs. 7 months along. 7 months of growing this life inside her. Fire. The word crystallized in her mind with terrible clarity. Cassie threw off the blanket and swung her legs out of bed. Her bare feet hit the hardwood floor. Hot. Too hot. She grabbed her phone from the nightstand. 12:47 in the morning. 23 missed calls from Derek. All from the last 10 minutes. Where was he? She stumbled toward the bedroom door, grabbed the handle. Locked. She twisted harder. It would not turn. Her heart hammered against her chest wall. Derek? Her voice came out raw. She coughed. The smoke was thicker now, burning her throat. Derek, the door is locked. No answer. The house creaked and groaned around her. She could hear it, the fire eating through their home. Their carefully decorated home. The nursery down the hall with its freshly painted walls and the crib they had assembled together just last week. Except Derek had not helped with the crib. He had taken a phone call and left her to finish it alone. Cassie pressed her face against the door. Help! Someone help me! The window. She turned toward it. Orange light flickered outside. The fire had spread to the porch below. She ran to the window and tried to lift it. Painted shut. No, not painted. She ran her fingers along the edge. Some kind of sealant. Fresh. Sticky. Her breath came in short gasps. The baby kicked again. Harder this time. Frantic. Okay, baby girl. Okay, mommy's getting us out. Cassie looked around the room. The bedside lamp. Heavy brass base. She grabbed it and yanked the cord from the wall. Raised it over her head, swung hard at the window. Glass exploded outward. Cold October air rushed in. She knocked out the remaining shards with the lamp base. Cut her forearm on a piece she missed. Blood welled up dark and fast. No time. She climbed onto the windowsill. Below, the porch roof slanted away from her. 10 feet beyond that, the ground. She looked back into the bedroom. Flames licked under the door now. The smoke was black, oily, chemical. Someone had used accelerant. That thought arrived clear and cold. Someone had poured something flammable throughout their house and lit it on fire. Cassie eased herself through the window. Glass fragments dug into her palms. She was wearing one of Derek's old t-shirts and cotton pajama pants. Nothing on her feet. She lowered herself until she hung from the windowsill by her fingers. Pregnant belly pressed against the siding. Then she let go. Her feet hit the porch roof. Asphalt shingles rough and cold. She slid down the slope. Too fast. Could not stop. Her hands scraped across the surface. She caught the gutter at the last second. It bent under her weight. Groaned. She looked down at the hydrangea bushes below. 10 feet. She had jumped from higher as a kid, but she had not been 7 months pregnant as a kid. The gutter gave way with a metallic shriek. Cassie fell, hit the bushes. Branches scratched her face and arms. Her hips struck something hard. Pain exploded through her side. She rolled onto the grass. Above her, fire burst through the bedroom window she had just escaped. Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer. Someone was screaming. Mrs. Walsh from next door, standing in her robe on her lawn, pointing, shouting. Cassie tried to stand. Her legs shook. Everything hurt. But the baby, she pressed both hands to her stomach. Waited. Please. Please. A kick. Soft but definite. Cassie started to cry. The fire truck arrived first, then the ambulance, then the police, lights everywhere. Red and blue and white. A paramedic wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, asked her questions. She could not focus on the words. All she could think about was the locked bedroom door, the sealed windows, Derek's car gone from the driveway, 23 missed calls that started right when the fire did. He knew. The thought was ice water in her veins. Derek knew she was trapped in there. Ma'am, can you hear me? The paramedic's face swam into focus. Young guy, concerned eyes. We need to get you to the hospital. Check on the baby. Cassie nodded. Let him guide her to the ambulance. She climbed in, lay back on the gurney. Someone strapped her in, put an oxygen mask over her face. She stared up at the ambulance ceiling, white panels, medical equipment hanging from hooks. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She'd been holding it this whole time. Blood from her cut arm had smeared across the screen. She looked at it. Derek calling. She pressed the button. Lock screen. Looked at the notification. Looked at the dark glass. Her own face reflected back, soot-streaked. Wild-eyed. Pressed the button again. Unlock. Watch the home screen appear. Pressed it again. Lock. She did this 12 times while the ambulance drove to the hospital. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. You're going into shock, the paramedic said gently. No, Cassie thought. This is the shock. Everything before was the lie. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Cassie lay propped up on pillows while Dr. Elizabeth Monroe ran the ultrasound wand across her belly. The monitor showed their daughter. Perfect profile. Tiny fist near her mouth. Heartbeat strong and steady. 142 beats per minute. She's fine, Dr. Monroe said. Her voice carried the relief they both felt. Heart rate excellent. Movement good. Amniotic fluid levels normal. Whatever else happened tonight, she's safe. Cassie nodded. Could not speak. If she spoke, she would start crying, and she was afraid she might never stop. Monroe cleaned the gel from Cassie's stomach and helped her sit up. The cuts on your arm needed 18 stitches. Your hip is badly bruised. You have smoke inhalation, but you're both going to be okay. My husband is in the waiting room, Cassie said. Her voice sounded flat, dead. I don't want to see him. Dr. Monroe's expression shifted. She was 50 years old, silver streaks in her dark hair, sharp eyes that had probably seen everything. I'll make sure of that. Is there someone else I can call for you? My friend Rachel, her number's in my phone. I'll have a nurse call her. Dr. Monroe paused. Cassie, there's a detective here who needs to speak with you. Are you up for that? Was she? Cassie looked down at her bandaged arm, at her belly where her daughter slept, safe and unaware. Yes. Detective Sarah Bennett entered 5 minutes later. She was in her 40s, wedding ring on her left hand, sensible shoes. She pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. Mrs. Hartman, I'm Detective Bennett. I need to ask you some questions about tonight. I know this is difficult, but the more you can tell me now, the better. The bedroom door was locked, Cassie said, from the outside. I tried to open it. It wouldn't turn. Detective Bennett wrote in her notebook, most doors were locked from the outside. Your bedroom has an ensuite bathroom. That door was also secured externally. The words landed like physical blows. Both doors, deliberately locked. The windows had been sealed with industrial adhesive, the detective continued. Yesterday, based on the curing time, your husband's car was caught on traffic cameras 15 miles away when the fire started. He called you 23 times in 10 minutes, all while driving back toward your house. Cassie's hands started shaking. She pressed them flat against the hospital blanket. He tried to kill us. Derek tried to kill me and the baby. Saying it out loud made it real, not a nightmare, not a mistake. Murder. Attempted murder of his wife and unborn child. The fire marshal found accelerant throughout the first floor, Detective Bennett said quietly. Someone poured it, someone lit it, someone made sure you couldn't get out. I need to ask you, where was your husband tonight? At the office, he said. He left around 8, said he had to finish a proposal. Cassie's voice broke. He kissed my forehead, told me not to wait up. That was 5 hours before the fire. Did he seem unusual, nervous, anything out of the ordinary? Cassie tried to remember. Derek standing by the door, briefcase in hand, looking at her for a long moment. What had been in that look? He stared at me for maybe 10 seconds. I asked if something was wrong. He said no, said he loved me, then he left. He had been saying goodbye, she realized. He thought he would never see her alive again. The door opened. Rachel burst in, still in her pajamas, jacket thrown over them, hair in a messy bun. She took one look at Cassie and started crying. Oh my God, Cassie. Rachel crossed to the bed in 3 steps, took Cassie's non-bandaged hand. When I got the call, I thought, I'm okay. The baby's okay. You're not okay. How could you be okay? Rachel turned to Detective Bennett. What happened? Was it the electrical? The inspector said the wiring was old but safe. It wasn't the wiring, Cassie said. It was Derek. Rachel's face went blank with shock. What? Detective Bennett stood. I'll give you some privacy. Mrs. Hartman, we'll need a full statement tomorrow. Get some rest if you can. She left. The door clicked shut behind her. Rachel sank into the chair the detective had vacated. Derek? No, that's not. There has to be a mistake. He locked me in, Rachel. Locked both doors. Sealed the windows. Started a fire and left. Cassie's voice stayed eerily calm. The shock, probably. Her brain protecting her from the full weight of what had happened. He tried to kill us, his wife and his baby. Rachel's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I don't understand. Why would he? She stopped. Something passed across her face. Guilt, recognition. Cassie saw it and her stomach dropped. Rachel? Cassie, I need to tell you something. Rachel would not meet her eyes. 3 months ago, I saw him, Derek, at that Italian restaurant downtown. The expensive one. He was with someone, a woman, young, blonde. They were. She finally looked up. Tears streaked her cheeks. They were holding hands across the table. Kissing. I convinced myself it wasn't what it looked like. Or that maybe you knew. Had some kind of arrangement. I should have told you. I should have said something. The room seemed to tilt. Cassie gripped the bed rail. Who was she? I don't know. I'd never seen her before. Of course there was another woman. Of course. Men didn't try to murder their pregnant wives for no reason. There was always a reason. Always something they wanted more than the life they had. How long do you think it was going on? Cassie asked. I don't know, sweetie. I'm so sorry. I should have told you the second I saw them. It wouldn't have mattered. The truth of that settled in Cassie's chest. I wouldn't have believed you. I would have made excuses for him. I would have convinced myself you were wrong. She laughed. It came out bitter and broken. God, I was so stupid. The signs were all there. You're not stupid. You trusted your husband. That's not stupid. But it felt stupid now. It felt like she had walked around with a blindfold on, ignoring every warning sign, every red flag, making herself smaller and smaller to accommodate Derek's needs, his schedule, his moods, his lies. The prison door had been unlocked all along. She had been her own warden. A nurse knocked and entered. Mrs. Hartman, your parents are here. Should I send them in? Cassie's heart lurched. Her parents, God. Yes, please. The nurse stepped aside and Vincent Reynolds entered like a contained storm. Vincent Reynolds was 58 years old with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. He had built a $3.2 billion tech empire through intelligence, strategy, and an absolute refusal to lose. When he walked into the hospital room and saw his daughter in that bed, bandaged and bruised, something shifted in his expression. Cassie had seen that look once before, when she was 12 and a boy at school had pushed her down on the playground. Her father had not yelled, had not threatened. He had simply spoken to the principal. 2 days later, the boy had transferred to another school. Maggie Reynolds followed her husband in, Cassie's mother, 56 years old, former attorney who had given up her practice to raise Cassie and manage the chaos of being married to Vincent. She was crying silently, tears streaming down her face as she approached the bed. Mom, Cassie's voice cracked. I'm okay. We're okay. Maggie took her daughter's face in both hands, gentle, careful of the scrapes and bruises. Don't you ever scare me like that again. I didn't exactly plan it. Vincent stood at the foot of the bed. He was very still. That was how Cassie knew he was furious. When her father was truly angry, he became absolutely motionless, like a predator before it struck. Where is he? Vincent asked. Dad, where is the man who did this to you? Detective Bennett must have called ahead, warned them, or maybe the news had reported it. Cassie did not know and did not care. I don't know where Derek is, Aye. He's in the waiting room, Rachel said quietly. I passed him on the way in. He was crying, talking to the receptionist, saying he needed to see his wife. Vincent turned and started for the door. Dad, wait. Cassie tried to sit up straighter. Pain shot through her tip. You can't just watch me. Maggie caught his arm. Vincent, think. He stopped, looked at his wife. Something passed between them. The silent communication of 30 years of marriage. Vincent took a slow breath, reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out his reading glasses, cleaned them methodically with his pocket square, put them back on. Cassie watched this ritual. Her father always cleaned his glasses when he needed to think, to plan, to execute a strategy. Thomas Burke, Vincent said finally. I need Thomas Burke here within the hour. And I need every security camera within 5 miles of Cassie's house. I need Derek Hartman's phone records, financial records, and every skeleton in his closet. Detective Bennett appeared in the doorway as if summoned. Mr. Reynolds, your daughter needs to rest. My daughter needs protection. Vincent's voice was steel-wrapped in ice. Tell me what you know. The detective glanced at Cassie, got a small nod. Then she outlined the evidence. The locked doors, the sealed windows, the accelerant, Derek's location and when the fire started, his subsequent frantic calls and drive home. Vincent listened without interrupting. When she finished, he turned to Cassie. Did he have life insurance on you? The question was so unexpected that Cassie blinked. I don't know. I don't think so. Find out, Vincent said to Detective Bennett, and I want to know about his finances. Is his business solvent? Any debts? Any reason he might need money quickly? We're already looking into that, the detective said. Look faster. My daughter and granddaughter almost died tonight. I want to know why. He moved to Cassie's bedside, reached out, touched her hair once, so gentle it almost broke her. When you were 7, he said quietly, I taught you how to play chess. Do you remember what I told you? Cassie nodded. Her throat was too tight to speak. When someone threatens what you love, you don't react emotionally. You plan. You execute. You win. Vincent's eyes were dark with promise. That man tried to kill my daughter and my granddaughter. He will regret that decision for the rest of his miserable life. Mr. Reynolds, Detective Bennett said carefully, I understand your anger, but you need to let us handle this through proper channels. Oh, I will. Vincent smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Everything I do will be completely legal. I didn't build my company by breaking rules, Detective. I built it by knowing exactly which rules to use to my advantage. The door opened again. A man in his 40s entered. Expensive suit, sharp eyes. Thomas Burke, Vincent's friend from college and the best criminal defense attorney in the state. Vincent called me from the bar, Thomas said. He had a leather briefcase in one hand. I've already started making calls. What do we know? Vincent gestured to Detective Bennett. She repeated the evidence. Thomas listened, occasionally writing in a small notebook. When she finished, he turned to Vincent. This is attempted murder, first degree, premeditated, and if there's financial motive, it gets uglier. But Cassie's not the defendant here. Derek is. Why am I here? Because I want you to coordinate with the prosecution. I want you to make sure they have everything they need to put Derek Hartman away for the maximum sentence possible. And I want you to help me destroy every aspect of his life legally. Thomas looked at Cassie. Is this what you want? Was it? Cassie thought about her bedroom door, locked from the outside, thought about the sealed windows, the accelerant, Derek kissing her forehead and telling her he loved her while knowing she had hours left to live. Yes, she said. I want him to face every consequence. I want everyone to know what he did. I want him to lose everything. Then that's what we'll do. Thomas pulled out his phone. I'll have my team here by morning. We'll start with financials. If there's life insurance, we'll find it. If there's debt, we'll find it. If there's another woman, we'll find her. Nothing stays hidden if you know where to look. Maggie sat on the edge of Cassie's bed, took her hand. You need to rest, sweetheart. Let your father and Thomas handle this part. But Cassie could not rest, could not close her eyes without seeing fire, could not breathe without smelling smoke. I keep thinking about what you said, Dad, about the chess game, about strategy. She looked at her father. He won't expect me to fight back. Derek thinks I'm fragile, that I'll be too traumatized, too scared. You are traumatized, Maggie said gently. You have every right to be scared. I am scared. I'm terrified. Cassie's hand moved to her belly, their daughter, safe for now. But I'm also furious, and I want him to know that he picked the wrong woman to underestimate. Vincent's smile this time was genuine, proud. That's my girl. A nurse appeared. I'm sorry, but Mrs. Hartman needs to rest. Doctor's orders. You can visit again in the morning. They filed out one by one, Rachel promising to come back first thing, Thomas saying he would have a full report by noon, Maggie kissing Cassie's forehead, Vincent pausing at the door to look back. Get some sleep if you can, he said. Tomorrow we start planning our strategy. And Cassandra? Yes? We're going to win. I promise you that. The door closed. Cassie was alone in the hospital room, monitors beeping softly, Ivy dripping medicine into her arm. She looked down at her belly where her daughter moved. A small flutter, then a stronger kick. Your daddy is a very bad man, Cassie whispered, but your grandfather is brilliant, and your mother is done being afraid. We're going to be okay, baby girl, I promise. She closed her eyes. Sleep would not come. She knew that. Instead, she counted her breaths. In for 4 counts, out for 6. The technique her therapist had taught her for anxiety. Except she had never had anxiety like this before. This was pure terror mixed with rage. It was the feeling of almost dying, of almost losing everything. The night nurse came in around 3 in the morning, found Cassie awake, staring at the ceiling. Can't sleep? The nurse asked kindly. No? Do you want something to help? I can ask the doctor. Cassie shook her head. I need to stay awake. Need to think. The nurse checked her vitals, made notes on a clipboard. You've been through something terrible. Your body needs rest to heal. My body can rest when my husband is in prison. The nurse's expression softened. Fair enough. But a try. For the baby, if not for yourself. After she left, Cassie did try. Closed her eyes, focused on her breathing, on the feel of the hospital bed beneath her, the weight of the blanket, the distant sounds of the hospital at night. And somewhere between one breath and the next, exhaustion finally pulled her under into uneasy dreams of fire and locked doors and Derek's voice saying he loved her, while smoke filled her lungs. 24 hours later, Cassie sat in her childhood bedroom in her parents' estate. She had refused to go back to the house, could not even drive past it. Vincent had sent people to collect clothes and personal items. Everything smelled like smoke. Thomas Burke's team had been working through the night. Now he sat across from her in the sitting area. Maggie beside Cassie on the love seat, Vincent standing by the window, Rachel perched on the arm of a chair. Derek's mistress is named Vanessa Price, Thomas said. He had a folder open on his lap, photos spilled across the coffee table. A blonde woman, 28 years old according to the report. She works for Derek's real estate company, has for 18 months. Cassie picked up one of the photos. Vanessa outside Derek's office building, laughing at something on her phone. She looked young, happy, oblivious to the destruction her affair had caused. How long has it been going on? Cassie asked. We're not sure yet, but there's more. Vanessa is 6 weeks pregnant. The room went silent. Cassie set the photo down carefully. Her hands were steady. That surprised her. She felt like she should be shaking, crying, something. Instead, she felt cold, numb. Derek got his mistress pregnant, she said slowly, while his wife was pregnant, with his child. It gets worse, Thomas said. He pulled out more documents. Derek's company is hemorrhaging money. He's been covering losses with new investor money. Classic Ponzi scheme structure. He's also got gambling debts, over $200,000 to various casinos and private games. And this is the important part. He handed Cassie a single sheet of paper. Your life insurance policy. Cassie scanned the document. $3 million. Death benefit. Her signature at the bottom. Except she had never signed this. The signature was close, but not quite right. The loop on her C was wrong. He forged my signature, she said, 6 months ago. He doubled your existing policy without your knowledge, and he's the sole beneficiary. The pieces clicked into place with terrible clarity. Derek needed money. He had debts, a failing business, a pregnant mistress who probably expected him to leave his wife, and Cassie was worth $3 million dead. So he decided to burn me alive. Cassie's voice sounded distant to her own ears. Collect the insurance money. Marry Vanessa. Start over. No messy divorce. No splitting assets. Just a tragic accident. It would have worked too, Vincent said from the window. His voice was ice. If you hadn't been strong enough, smart enough, if you had panicked instead of thinking, if you had given up. But she had not given up. She had broken the window, jumped from the roof, saved herself and her daughter while Derek sat 15 miles away waiting for news of her death. Cassie looked at the photo of Vanessa again. Does she know about what he did? We don't know yet, Thomas said, but we have investigators watching her, and we found something interesting. Security footage from her apartment building. Derek was there the night of the fire, arrived at 9:15, left at 11:30. He had a bottle of champagne. Rachel made a sound, disgust mixed with fury. He was celebrating. While Cassie was trapped in that house, he was celebrating with his mistress. He thought I was already dead, Cassie said. She felt something crack open inside her chest. He thought it was over. He had won, and he was drinking champagne. Maggie put an arm around her shoulders. Cassie leaned into her mother's warmth. She had not cried yet. Not really. A few tears in the hospital, but nothing like what should have come. The grief should have been overwhelming. Instead, she felt hollowed out, scraped clean. What do we do? Cassie asked. How do we prove all of this? We already have enough for an arrest, Thomas said. The fire marshal's report, the locked doors, the forged insurance documents, Derek's location and the timeline. The prosecution is building a strong case. But I want more. I want to destroy him so completely that he never sees daylight again. Vincent turned from the window. His business, his investors, his employees, his reputation. I want all of it gone. I want him to lose everything before he goes to prison. So when he sits in that cell, he knows exactly what his choices cost him. That's not justice, Maggie said quietly. That's revenge. No, Cassie straightened, pulled away from her mother's embrace. That's consequences. Derek chose this, every step. He chose to have an affair, chose to steal investor money, chose to gamble, chose to forge my signature, chose to lock me in a burning house. Every choice was his, and now he gets to live with the results. She stood, walked to the window where her father stood. The estate spread out below them, manicured lawns, the pool covered for winter, the greenhouse where her mother grew orchids. This had been her safe place growing up, her home. And Derek had tried to take her away from all of this, tried to make sure she never saw another sunrise, never held her daughter, never had another conversation with her parents or Rachel or anyone she loved. I want to see him arrested, Cassie said. I want to watch them put him in handcuffs. Can you arrange that? Thomas and Vincent exchanged a look. Vincent nodded. I'll make some calls, Thomas said. If we time it right, we can have media there too. His arrest will be very public. Good. Cassie's hand moved to her belly. The baby was quiet right now, sleeping probably, unaware of the chaos around her. I want everyone to see what kind of man he is. No hiding, no protecting his reputation. Everyone needs to know. Cassie, are you sure? Rachel asked. Once this becomes public, you can't take it back. Your privacy will be gone. People will have opinions. They'll judge. Let them judge. Let them have opinions. Cassie turned to face the room. I almost died because I was too quiet, too accommodating, too willing to ignore warning signs to keep the peace. I'm done with that. If my story helps even one woman recognize danger in her own life, it's worth it. Maggie smiled, sad but proud. When did you get so strong? When I had to be, when there was no other choice. Vincent walked over, put both hands on her shoulders. You get this from your mother, you know, this core of steel. I fell in love with it 30 years ago, and I see it in you now. Derek Hartman made a critical miscalculation. He thought you were weak. He's about to discover how wrong he was. Thomas gathered his documents. I'll coordinate with the prosecutor. We should have an arrest warrant by tomorrow, Friday at the latest, and I'll start reaching out to Derek's investors. Once they know what he's done, they'll turn on him. His company will collapse within a week. What about Vanessa? Cassie asked. The mistress, is she in trouble too? Depends on what she knew and when, Thomas said. If she knew about the insurance fraud or the attempted murder, she's an accessory. If she was just an affair partner, she's clear legally. But her life is about to get very complicated either way. After Thomas left, Rachel made tea. They sat in the sitting area of Cassie's old bedroom and drank it in silence. Outside, the sun was setting, pink and orange across the clouds, beautiful and indifferent to human suffering. I need to tell you something, Cassie said. Something I realized in the hospital. Rachel and Maggie both looked at her. Vincent had gone to his study to make calls, but Cassie suspected he was listening on the baby monitor. Her mother had not bothered to hide. I knew, Cassie said. On some level, I knew Derek was having an affair. I knew he was hiding things. I knew our marriage was failing. But I didn't want to see it, so I convinced myself I was paranoid, that I was hormonal from the pregnancy, that I was insecure. I gaslit myself because facing the truth was too scary. That's not your fault, Rachel said firmly. He manipulated you. That's what abusers do. They make you doubt your own perceptions. But I'm the one who chose to doubt myself instead of trust my instincts. That's on me, though, and I need to own that so I never do it again. Maggie set down her teacup. Cassie, you were in an impossible situation. There's no right way to respond to emotional abuse. You did what you needed to do to survive. But I almost didn't survive. None of this would have happened if I had confronted him months ago, if I had demanded the truth, if I had been brave enough to leave when I first suspected something was wrong. You're being too hard on yourself, Rachel said. No, I'm being honest with myself, for the first time in 3 years. Cassie stood, walked to her dresser. There was a photo there in a silver frame, her and Derek on their wedding day, both smiling, both so young and stupid and hopeful. She picked up the frame, looked at Derek's face, tried to see the monster behind the smile. Had he always been capable of murder? Or had desperation driven him to it? Did it matter? She opened the dresser drawer, put the photo face down inside, closed the drawer. I'm not that woman anymore, Cassie said. The one in that picture. She died in the fire. What came out was someone else. Someone stronger. Someone who survived, Maggie agreed. Cassie looked at her mother, at Rachel, the two women who had always been there for her. Thank you for being here, for not judging me, for not saying I told you so. We would never, Rachel said, but Cassie could see it in their eyes. They had worried. They had seen signs. They had bitten their tongues because she had not wanted to hear it. And now all three of them had to live with that reality. The baby kicked, hard enough that Cassie gasped. She pressed both hands to her belly, felt the movement, strong, determined. This little girl fighting to be born into a world that had already tried to kill her. She's going to be fierce, Cassie said. I can tell already. She gets that from her mother, Maggie said softly, and her grandmother. The Reynolds women don't break easily. Cassie hoped that was true, because the hardest part was still coming, the arrest, the trial, the public scrutiny, the testimony where she would have to relive the worst night of her life in front of strangers. But she would do it, for her daughter, for herself, for every woman who had ever ignored her instincts, because trusting the wrong person felt safer than being alone. Derek thought he had ended her that night. Instead, he had set her free. Derek's arrest happened on a Friday morning. Thomas had arranged everything with military precision. The police would arrive at Vanessa's apartment at 8:30, when Derek came out for his morning coffee run. In full view of the building's security cameras and the news crews who had been anonymously tipped off, Cassie watched it from her father's study. Live television, Vincent beside her, Maggie holding her hand, Rachel pacing behind the couch. The camera showed Vanessa's building. Upscale, modern. Derek's silver Tesla sat in the parking lot. Then the police cars arrived. 3 of them. Silent. No sirens. They parked and officers got out. Detective Bennett led the team. The building's front door opened. Derek emerged. He wore jeans and a polo shirt. Expensive sneakers. He looked tired, thinner than she remembered. He turned toward his car and froze. Detective Bennett approached, said something. Cassie could not hear the words, but she could see Derek's face. Shock, then calculation, then fear. Derek Hartman, the news anchor said, millionaire real estate developer arrested this morning on charges of attempted murder, arson, insurance fraud, and forgery. Police say he locked his 7 months pregnant wife inside their burning home earlier this week. She escaped but suffered injuries. The baby is reportedly safe. Derek held up his hands, shook his head. His mouth moved, denying it probably, claiming innocence. But the detective was already behind him, cuffing his wrists, reading his rights. The camera zoomed in on Derek's face. He looked directly at the lens. For a moment, Cassie felt like he was looking at her, through the television, across the miles between them. She did not look away. The officers walked Derek to a police car, put a hand on his head, guided him into the back seat. The door closed. Derek twisted to look out the window. The cameras caught his profile. Then the car drove away. "Where's my father?" A woman's voice off camera, young, panicked. "What's happening? Derek!" The camera swung to show Vanessa, blonde hair loose, wearing a robe, one hand pressed to her still flat stomach, crying. An officer approached her, spoke quietly. Vanessa shook her head, violently, backing away. "She didn't know," Cassie said. "Look at her face. She had no idea." "Are you sure?" Vincent asked. "I'm sure. That's not the face of someone who knew her boyfriend tried to commit murder." That's shock. On screen, Vanessa collapsed onto the apartment steps, buried her face in her hands. The officer knelt beside her. Detective Bennett appeared, spoke to Vanessa, helped her stand, led her back inside. The news cut to aerial footage of Cassie's house, what was left of it. Burned out shell, yellow crime scene tape. The reporter gave details. Fire started after midnight, accelerant found, doors locked from outside, window sealed, pregnant woman escaped through second-story window. They showed Derek's mugshot. He was not smiling, his hair was messy, his eyes were empty. Cassie's phone exploded with notifications. Texts from college friends, former co-workers, distant relatives she had not spoken to in years. Everyone shocked, everyone supportive, everyone wanting to know if she was okay. She was not okay, but she was alive. That counted for something. "The bail hearing is Monday," Thomas said. He stood in the doorway. Cassie had not heard him arrive. "I've already filed motions to deny bail. Given the evidence and his financial means, I think we'll succeed." "What happens then?" Cassie asked. "He stays in jail until trial. Could be 6 months, could be a year. Depends on how fast we can move things along." "I don't want this dragged out." Cassie turned from the television. "Every day he's out there is a day I can't breathe properly. A day I'm looking over my shoulder, waiting for him to try again." "He won't try again," Vincent said. "I've hired private security. 2 men. They'll be with you whenever you leave the estate." "Dad, this is not negotiable, Cassandra. Derek Hartman is desperate and cornered. Desperate men do desperate things. You will have protection, or you will stay here. Those are your options." Cassie wanted to argue, but her father was right. Derek had tried to kill her once. Why not again? If he was facing life in prison anyway, what did he have to lose? "Okay," she said. "Security. Fine." The news had cut to an interview. Jonathan Pierce, Derek's business partner, standing outside their office building, microphone in his face. "I'm shocked and horrified," Jonathan said. His expression was grave, concerned, completely fake. "I had no idea Derek was capable of something like this. Our thoughts and prayers are with his wife and baby. We're cooperating fully with the investigation." "Liar," Rachel muttered. "He knew Derek was stealing from investors. He had to." "Probably," Thomas agreed. "But proving that is different. Right now, Jonathan is distancing himself from Derek as fast as possible. By Monday, he'll have filed paperwork to dissolve their partnership. Self-preservation." Cassie watched Jonathan's interview. The careful words, the rehearsed sympathy. 3 weeks ago, this man had been at a barbecue at her house, had eaten her potato salad, had told Derek he was lucky to have such a wonderful wife. People were so good at lying, at pretending, at saying what they thought they should say, while their actions revealed the truth. "I want to go see the house," Cassie said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. "That's not a good idea," Maggie said. "It's still a crime scene, and seeing it might—" "I need to see it. I need to face it." Cassie stood. "I can't spend the rest of my life afraid of that place. It was my home. Our home. I need to say goodbye to it." Vincent considered this, then nodded. "I'll arrange it with Detective Bennett. We can go this afternoon if she approves." 3 hours later, Cassie stood on the sidewalk outside what used to be her house. The security detail Vincent hired stood a respectful distance away, her father beside her, Thomas Burke on her other side. Detective Bennett waited by the crime scene tape. The house looked like a skeleton, black bones against gray sky. The roof had collapsed. The windows were gone. The front door hung open like a screaming mouth. Yellow tape fluttered in the October wind. Mrs. Walsh was outside next door, watching. She waved tentatively. Cassie waved back. "Do you want to go closer?" Detective Bennett asked. Did she? Cassie took a step forward, then another. Her hip ached where she had hit the ground. Her stitches pulled, but she kept walking. She stopped at the crime scene tape. The front steps were still intact. Burned but standing. She could see into the house. The living room. Their couch was a charred lump. The television melted. The walls black and blistering. Upstairs, her bedroom window gaped empty. Broken glass still littered the porch roof below it. She had jumped from there, had fallen through air, wondering if this was how she died. But she had not died. She had lived. And Derek was the one in a cage now. "I'm ready to leave," Cassie said. They walked back to Vincent's car. Cassie looked back once. The house stared back. Empty, dead. A monument to Derek's betrayal. She got in the car and did not look back again. That night, Cassie lay in her childhood bed, unable to sleep. Again. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw fire. Every time she drifted off, she dreamed of locked doors. At 2 in the morning, she gave up, got out of bed, walked down the hall to the room Vincent had converted into a nursery. He had done it without asking. Just set up a crib and changing table and rocking chair, put soft blankets in drawers, hung pictures of clouds and stars on the walls. Cassie turned on the small nightlight. It cast shadows that looked like dancing leaves. She pulled open a drawer, tiny onesies, newborn size. She took one out, yellow with white ducks, soft cotton that smelled like lavender. She folded it the way her mother had taught her, sleeves in first, then side, then bottom up. Each fold precise, perfect, a promise. She did this with every onesie, every tiny pair of pants, every impossibly small sock, organizing them by size and color, creating order from chaos. At 3:17 in the morning, she sat in the rocking chair, hand on her belly, daughter moving beneath her palm. "Your name is Sophie," Cassie whispered. "Sophia Margaret Reynolds. It means wisdom. And I hope you will be wiser than your mother. I hope you'll trust your instincts. I hope you'll never make yourself small for someone else. I hope you'll be fierce and brave and absolutely unstoppable." Sophie kicked, strong, determined. "We're going to be okay, baby girl," Cassie said. "I promise." Outside her window, dawn was still hours away, but Cassie could feel it coming. The light at the end of this long, dark night. Justice, truth, freedom. Derek thought he had destroyed her. Instead, he had forged her into something unbreakable, and she was just getting started. 3 weeks after Derek's arrest, Cassie sat in Dr. Monroe's therapy office. Her obstetrician had insisted. Physical health was one thing, mental health was another, and trauma affected the baby just as much as any physical injury. The office was warm, comfortable. Dr. Monroe sat across from her in a leather chair, a box of tissues on the table between them. Classical music played softly in the background. "Tell me about the nightmares," Dr. Monroe said gently. Cassie shifted in her seat, in her 8 months pregnant now. Sophie got bigger every day, stronger. She would be here soon, and Cassie needed to be okay for her. "They're always the same," Cassie said. "I'm in the bedroom, the door is locked. But in the dream, I can't break the window. I hit it, and hit it, but the glass won't break, and the smoke gets thicker, the fire gets closer, and I wake up before I can get out. How many times a week? Every night? Sometimes multiple times. Cassie's hands twisted in her lap. I can't sleep with the bedroom door closed anymore. I can't be in a room unless I know there's a way out. I panic in elevators. I check my phone constantly. Lock it, unlock it, lock it, over and over. Monroe made notes. These are classic PTSD symptoms, post-traumatic stress disorder. Your brain is trying to process what happened. The nightmares, the hypervigilance, the compulsive behaviors, all completely normal given what you experienced. Normal doesn't make them stop. No, but treatment can help. I'd like to try EMDR therapy with you, eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. It's been very effective for trauma survivors. Cassie agreed. They started immediately. Dr. Monroe had her follow a light with her eyes while describing the fire, the locked door, the sealed windows, the smoke, the jump, the fall. It was exhausting, reliving it over and over, but something shifted. The edges of the memory became less sharp, less immediate, still there but no longer consuming her entirely. Good, Dr. Monroe said after an hour. We'll do this weekly, maybe twice a week until the baby comes. Then we'll reassess. I keep thinking I should have known, Cassie said. All the signs were there, the late nights, the distance, the way he looked at me, or didn't look at me. I made excuses. I convinced myself I was imagining things. That's called gaslighting. Derek made you doubt your own perceptions. It's a form of psychological abuse. And it's not your fault that you believed someone you loved. Those words landed differently than when Rachel or Maggie had said them. Dr. Monroe was a professional. She treated trauma for a living. If she said it was not Cassie's fault, maybe it was true. How do I forgive myself? Cassie asked. Do you need to? Forgive yourself for what? For trusting your husband? For wanting your marriage to work? For being pregnant and vulnerable when someone attacked you? Dr. Monroe leaned forward. Cassie, you didn't do anything wrong. Derek did. Every choice was his. The affair, the fraud, the attempted murder. All his choices, not yours. Logically, Cassie knew this was true. Emotionally, she still felt responsible somehow, like she should have prevented it, should have seen it coming, should have protected herself better. They talked for another 30 minutes about grief and anger and fear, about becoming a single mother, about the upcoming trial, about healing and what that might look like. When Cassie left, she felt lighter, not fixed. Trauma did not get fixed in one session, but maybe a little less broken than when she had arrived. Vincent was waiting in the car. He drove her back to the estate. They did not talk, just sat in comfortable silence while the security car followed at a discreet distance. At home, Thomas Burke was waiting with news. He had papers spread across the dining room table. Vincent's study was being used for something else, apparently. Thomas looked tired but satisfied. Derek's company collapsed yesterday, he said. Final investors pulled out. Employees quit. The bank foreclosed on his properties. Everything he built is gone. How much did people lose? Cassie asked. Millions. 37 investors. Most of them retirees who put their savings into Derek's projects. They're all filing lawsuits. He'll owe more money than he'll ever have, even if he lives to be 200. Cassie thought about those people. Retirees who had trusted Derek, who had believed his promises, who had lost everything because of his greed and lies. Can we help them? She asked. Financially? Vincent and Thomas exchanged a look. That's generous, Vincent said, but not advisable right now. It could be seen as an admission of liability, or as trying to influence potential witnesses. But they didn't do anything wrong. They're victims too. They are, and they'll have their day in civil court. But right now, we need to focus on the criminal case, on making sure Derek goes to prison for what he did to you. Cassie understood the logic, but it still felt wrong. All these people suffering because Derek had been a selfish, violent criminal. What about Vanessa? Cassie asked. The mistress, is she okay? Thomas pulled out another folder. She's cooperating fully with authorities, gave a complete statement. She claims she had no knowledge of Derek's plans, that he told her he was getting divorced, that the insurance money would help him start fresh. She believed him. Is she being charged? No, she's a witness now, and she'll testify if needed. About the affair, about Derek's state of mind, about his plans to leave the country. Cassie should have hated Vanessa, should have blamed her for the affair, for Derek's motivation to get rid of his pregnant wife. But all she felt was pity. Vanessa was 28 and pregnant and alone. Her boyfriend was in jail for attempted murder. Her life was ruined. Has she had prenatal care? Cassie asked. Thomas blinked. I don't know. Find out. And if she hasn't, send her information about clinics, about resources for single mothers. Cassie saw their expressions. What? She didn't try to kill me. Derek did. And her baby doesn't deserve to suffer because of what her father did. You're remarkably compassionate, Thomas said. I'm practical. That baby and my baby are half-siblings. They'll probably meet someday, know about each other. I'd rather not start that relationship with bitterness and resentment. Vincent smiled. Every day you remind me more of your mother, that exact combination of ruthlessness and mercy. They spent the next hour going over trial preparation. The prosecution had set a date, 3 months away, January. Cassie would be a mother by then, would have a newborn while testifying about the night Derek tried to kill her. The thought was surreal. Time kept moving forward even though part of her was stuck in that burning bedroom, unable to move past it. That night she went to the nursery again, 3 in the morning, the house silent around her. She folded baby clothes, organized diapers, rearranged stuffed animals. Rachel found her there at 4. Can't sleep? Rachel asked softly. Never can anymore. Rachel sat on the floor beside the rocking chair. It's going to get better. The therapist said so. Give it time. I don't have time. Sophie's coming in 4 weeks, and I need to be okay for her. I can't be a good mother if I'm jumping at shadows and having nightmares every night. You're going to be a great mother, trauma and all, because you're fighting, you're getting help, you're not letting Derek win. Cassie folded another onesie, pink with white flowers. Sometimes I wish I could just forget. Wake up one day and have it all be a distant memory instead of something that haunts me every second. But you can't forget, so you have to integrate it, make it part of your story without letting it be your whole story. When did you get so wise? I've been reading books about supporting trauma survivors. Lots of books. I'm basically an expert now. Rachel grinned, then sobered. Seriously, though, you're not alone in this. You have your parents, me, Thomas, an army of people making sure Derek can never hurt you again. And soon you'll have Sophie. She's going to be your reason to keep fighting when everything feels impossible. Cassie's hand moved to her belly. Sophie was awake, moving around. She seemed to be most active between 3 and 5 in the morning. Maybe she sensed her mother's wakefulness. Or maybe she was just preparing Cassie for the reality of a newborn schedule. I talked to her, Cassie said. Tell her stories about the life we're going to have. Just the two of us. About how we'll be okay. How we'll be strong. How her father tried to end us, but we survived. Do you think you'll tell her when she's older? I don't know. How do you tell your daughter that her father tried to murder her before she was born? That he would have killed her along with me if he'd succeeded? Cassie's throat tightened. But I can't lie to her either. She'll have questions about why I'm a single mother, about why she doesn't have a father, about why my hands shake when I smell smoke. You'll figure it out when the time comes. You'll know what to say. They sat in silence, the nursery around them, the crib waiting, the changing table stocked. Everything ready for Sophie's arrival. Everything except Cassie herself, but she would be ready. She had to be, because in 4 weeks she would hold her daughter for the first time, and nothing Derek had done would matter anymore. Only Sophie would matter, only their future together. Derek thought he could erase them. Instead, he had given Cassie a clarity she had never had before, a purpose, a fierce determination to build a life so strong that his shadow could never reach them. I'm not the woman Derek married, Cassie said. She died in that fire, and I'm glad she did, because she was weak. She made excuses. She ignored her instincts. This version of me won't make those mistakes. This version of you is a warrior, Rachel said. And Sophie is lucky to have you as her mother. Cassie hoped that was true. She hoped she could be the mother Sophie deserved. Strong and fierce and unafraid. The kind of woman who faced down demons and won. Because Derek had been her demon, and she was not done fighting him yet. Mitchell Hartman showed up at the estate on a Tuesday afternoon. Vincent's security tried to stop him at the gate, but Mitchell claimed family emergency, said he needed to see his brother's wife, said it was urgent. The guard called up to the house. Vincent took the call, looked at Cassie. Derek's brother is here, wants to talk to you. I can send him away. Cassie thought about it. She had met Mitchell maybe 5 times. Derek's younger brother, 2 years younger, worked in finance, married with twins. They had seemed close, brothers, always texting each other, meeting for lunch. Let him in, Cassie said, but stay close. Mitchell's car pulled up the driveway. Mercedes, black, expensive. He got out wearing a suit, no tie. He looked like Derek, same sharp jawline, same dark hair, but his eyes were colder. Or maybe Cassie was just seeing him differently now. She met him in the garden, Vincent and Rachel inside but watching through the windows. The security team positioned nearby, casual but alert. Mitchell, Cassie said, this is unexpected. Cassie, he gave her an awkward once-over, taking in her pregnant belly, the fading bruises on her arms. You look, well, for someone who almost burned to death? I suppose I do. His jaw tightened. That's actually why I'm here. This whole thing has been a nightmare, a huge misunderstanding, and I think if we could just talk rationally. Stop. Cassie held up one hand. Are you seriously here to defend Derek? To tell me it was a misunderstanding? He's my brother and I know him. He would never try to hurt you. Whatever the police think happened, they're wrong. Cassie stared at him. The audacity, the absolute nerve. Mitchell, Derek locked me in a burning house. The fire marshal found accelerant. The doors were locked from the outside. The windows were sealed. Your brother tried to murder me and his child. It was an accident with the locks. The fire was electrical. Derek was at the office working on a proposal. He was at his mistress's apartment, drinking champagne, celebrating my death. Mitchell's expression flickered. Surprise. Then something else. Calculation. That's not, you don't have proof, and I have security footage, phone records, testimony from Vanessa, financial records showing the forged insurance policy. I have 18 stitches in my arm from breaking a window to escape. I have nightmares every night. I have PTSD. I have a daughter who almost died before she was born. I have everything except patience for this conversation. She turned to walk away. Wait, Mitchell's voice sharpened. You need to drop the charges. This has destroyed my brother's life. His business is gone. His reputation is ruined. He's sitting in jail facing 40 years. All because you've decided to play victim. Cassie spun back. Fury surged through her, hot and clarifying. Play victim? I am a victim. Your brother tried to kill me. You don't know what you've started. Derek has friends, resources. You think your father's money protects you? You think these guards and lawyers make you safe? You're wrong. The threat was clear, unmistakable. Cassie should have been scared, should have backed down, run inside and lock the doors. Instead, she stepped closer, right into Mitchell's space. Let me make something very clear. Your brother locked me in a burning building while I was carrying his child. I climbed through broken glass, jumped from a second-story roof, fell 10 feet, and I survived. So whatever you think you're threatening me with, whatever Derek thinks he can do from prison, I've already survived the worst he had to offer. I'm not afraid of him anymore. I'm not afraid of you. And if you ever step foot on my father's property again without permission, I will have you arrested for trespassing and intimidation. Mitchell's face went red, angry, embarrassed, dangerous. You're making a mistake. No, Derek made the mistake. And you're making one right now. Get off this property. She walked toward the house, did not look back, did not run, just walked with her head high and her shoulders straight. The security team moved in, escorted Mitchell back to his car, made sure he left. Inside, Vincent was on the phone immediately. Thomas Burke arrived within 30 minutes. "He threatened you?" Thomas asked. "Implied threats, nothing explicit enough to charge him with." Cassie sat at the kitchen table. Rachel brought her tea. Her hands shook as she lifted the cup. Adrenaline crash. But it was definitely a threat. "I'll file a police report," Thomas said. "Get it on record, and we'll review security footage. See if he left anything behind. Device, tracking, anything." The security team swept the garden, found a listening device planted near where Mitchell had been standing. Small, professional. He had been recording their conversation, or trying to. "This adds witness tampering," Thomas said with satisfaction. "Attempted intimidation. He just made Derek's case worse." But Cassie felt unsettled, violated. Mitchell had come into her safe space, her father's property, her garden, and contaminated it with his presence. That night, Vincent doubled security, added cameras, changed access codes, made the estate into a fortress. Cassie appreciated it, but she also felt trapped. Again, different kind of cage, but still a cage. "I can't live like this forever," she said to her mother. Under guard, looking over my shoulder, afraid to go anywhere. "You won't have to," Maggie promised. "Once the trial is over, once Derek is sentenced, he'll have no reason to come after you anymore. He'll have 40 years of reasons. 40 years to sit in prison and hate me, to blame me for his choices, to convince himself I deserve punishment. Then he can hate you from prison, where he can't hurt you." Cassie wanted to believe that, but Mitchell's visit had shaken her confidence. Derek was not alone. He had family, friends, resources even from behind bars. People who believed his version of events, who thought Cassie was lying or exaggerating, who thought she deserved what happened. 2 days later, Thomas came back with more news. Investigators had tracked Mitchell's finances. He had accessed Derek's offshore accounts. Both brothers had been planning something. Tickets to Brazil, false passports, new identities. They were going to run. Both of them. After Derek collected the insurance money. "Mitchell knew," Cassie said, "about all of it. The insurance fraud, the plan to leave the country, maybe even about the fire." "We're building a case," Thomas said. "But proving knowledge versus suspicion is difficult. Right now we have him on witness tampering, unlawful surveillance. Those are felonies but not murder conspiracy." "It's enough," Cassie said. "It puts him away. It protects me and Sophie. That's all I need." The prosecuting attorney wanted to meet with Cassie, prepare her for testimony, go over what to expect. The defense would attack her credibility, paint her as unstable, vindictive, a woman scorned who wanted revenge on an innocent man. "Let them try," Cassie said. "I have evidence. I have the truth. I have a body that almost burned and a baby who almost died. They can paint me however they want. Reality doesn't change." But she was nervous, terrified actually. The thought of facing Derek in court, of having to relive that night in front of strangers, of being cross-examined by lawyers trying to destroy her. That's when she decided to do the television interview. If she was going to tell her story, she would tell it on her terms first. Before the trial, before Derek's lawyers could spin it, she would go on national television and speak the truth. Rachel thought it was a bad idea. Once you do this, you can't take it back. Your face will be everywhere. Your story will be dissected by millions of people. They'll have opinions. They'll judge. Let them. I'm done hiding, done being ashamed of what Derek did to me. If my story helps even one woman recognize danger, it's worth it. Vincent set it up through his PR team. A major network, primetime, sympathetic interviewer. Cassie practiced her statement, chose an outfit that showed her pregnant belly clearly, wanted everyone to see what Derek had tried to destroy. The interview aired 3 weeks after Derek's arrest. Cassie sat across from a journalist in a tasteful studio, soft lighting, comfortable chairs. But her story was anything but comfortable. "Tell us what happened," the journalist said gently. So Cassie did, every detail. The locked doors, the sealed windows, the fire, the escape, the fall, Derek's location, his mistress, the insurance fraud, all of it. calm and clear and absolutely devastating. "Why do you think your husband did this?" the journalist asked. Cassie looked directly at the camera, directly at everyone watching. Money and ego. He was losing everything he'd built through fraud and gambling. "I was worth more dead than alive. But here's what he didn't understand. I was never the fragile thing he thought I was. None of us are. Women endure. We adapt. We survive." Derek tried to silence me permanently. Instead, he gave me a voice I never had before. And I'm going to use it to make sure this never happens to anyone else. The interview went viral. 10 million views in 24 hours. Women sharing their own stories, their own near misses, their own survival. Derek's defense attorney issued a statement calling it a publicity stunt, claiming Cassie was manipulating public opinion before trial. But the damage was done. Everyone knew Derek's name now. Everyone knew what he had done. And public opinion was firmly on Cassie's side. She had told her truth. And the world had listened. The backlash against Derek was immediate and brutal. His business partners abandoned him. His investors sued. Former employees came forward with stories about his behavior, his temper, his manipulation, his fraud. Jonathan Pierce gave another interview, this time admitting he had suspected financial irregularities but had not acted. "I should have done something," he said. "I should have reported him. I let greed blind me to reality, and Cassie almost died because of it." At least Jonathan was honest, more honest than Mitchell, who was arrested 3 days after his visit to the estate, charged with witness tampering, attempted intimidation, unlawful surveillance. His bail was set high. He made it, but his reputation was ruined. His wife filed for divorce. His employer put him on leave. The Hartman brothers had destroyed themselves, and they had done it through their own choices, their own arrogance, their own belief that they were smarter than everyone else. Vanessa gave her second interview, her attorney present. She looked tired, pale, scared, but determined. "Derek told me he was getting divorced," she said on camera, "that his wife knew, that it was amicable. I believed him because I wanted to, because I was pregnant and alone and scared. He promised me a future, promised me everything, and I was stupid enough to believe him." The journalist asked if she knew about the fire, about Derek's plan. "No," Vanessa's voice broke. "I swear I didn't know. If I had known he was capable of that, if I had any idea, I would have called the police immediately. I would have warned her. I'm not a monster. I made bad choices, but I never wanted anyone to die." Cassie watched the interview from her father's study. She believed Vanessa, believed her tears were real, her regret genuine. "She's 28, Cassie said to Rachel, who sat beside her. "I remember being 28. I thought I knew everything, thought I could read people, thought I was too smart to be manipulated. Derek would have fooled 28-year-old me, too." "You're being very generous to the woman who slept with your husband. She didn't know he was planning murder. That makes her different from Derek, from Mitchell. She made mistakes, but she's not evil, just naive. And she's paying for it now, single, pregnant. Her name attached to an attempted murder case. She'll carry that forever." 2 weeks later, Derek's attorney approached Thomas with a plea deal offer. Derek would plead guilty to reduced charges, take 15 years instead of 45, admit to fraud and arson but not attempted murder, claim the locks were an accident, the fire got out of control, he never meant to hurt anyone. Thomas brought the offer to Cassie. "What do you think?" she asked. "I think it's cowardice." Derek facing reality, knowing if this goes to trial, he'll lose. The evidence is overwhelming, so he wants to save face, serve less time, maintain some shred of dignity. "What happens if I say no?" "Full trial, every piece of evidence, every witness. You testify now, it's public, it is brutal, it's exhausting. But he gets the maximum sentence, 45 years, no parole for 30, he dies in prison." Cassie walked to the window. The estate's gardens spread out below, fall giving way to winter, trees bare, flower beds mulched, everything dormant, waiting for spring. She was 31 years old. Derek was 36. In 45 years, he would be 81. She would be 76. Sophie would be in her 40s, with children of her own probably. "I want everyone to see who he really is," Cassie said. I want a trial. I want witnesses. I want the truth on record, not some plea deal where he gets to pretend it was all an accident, even if it's harder on you. Especially then, because other women need to see it's possible, to fight back, to face your abuser, to demand justice instead of accepting whatever crumbs the system offers. Vincent, who had been quiet until now, spoke from his desk. You're sure the trial will be difficult? Derek's attorney will attack you. They'll make you relive the worst night of your life. They'll try to break you on the stand. They can try, but I've already broken and rebuilt myself. Whatever they throw at me can't be worse than what I've already survived. Thomas made the call. No plea deal. They were going to trial. Derek's attorney released a statement. Disappointment. Claims that Cassie was vindictive, refusing reasonable compromise, making this harder than necessary. The media picked it up. Some people agreed with Derek's attorney, said Cassie should take the deal, that she was being cruel, that Derek deserved mercy, but more people supported her, understood her need for truth, for accountability, for refusing to let Derek control the narrative even from jail. Sophie was due in 2 weeks. The trial was set for 8 weeks after that. Cassie would have a newborn, would be recovering from childbirth, would be sleep-deprived and adjusting to motherhood. Perfect time to face her attempted murderer in court. Better Monroe warned her about the timing. Your body will be vulnerable. Your emotions will be extreme. Postpartum hormones are no joke. Adding trial stress on top of that is dangerous. I know, but I can't wait. Can't drag this out for months or years. I need it done. Need to close this chapter so Sophie and I can start the next one. Then we'll work together, weekly sessions, daily if needed, medication if necessary. Whatever it takes to get you through this safely. Cassie appreciated the support, but she knew the truth. Nothing would make the trial easy. Nothing would erase the trauma of testifying, of seeing Derek, of being cross-examined about her own attempted murder. She was walking into fire again, voluntarily this time, and she would come out the other side burned but alive. That night, Cassie dreamed about the bedroom, but it was different. In this dream, she broke the window on the first trauma on bra, climbed through calmly, jumped and landed perfectly. And when she looked back, the house was not burning. It was just empty, abandoned, nothing inside worth saving. She woke up with tears on her face, but they were not sad tears, they were relief. Because maybe her subconscious was finally starting to heal. Maybe the nightmares were losing their power. Sophie kicked, strong, insistent, ready to be born, ready to start her life outside, away from all this darkness. Soon, baby girl, Cassie whispered. We're almost through the fire, and on the other side is everything we've been waiting for. Sophia Margaret Reynolds was born on November 23rd at 4:37 in the morning. 8 pounds, 3 ounces, 20 inches long. Perfect. Cassie held her daughter for the first time and understood what it meant to have your heart exist outside your body. This tiny person, this beautiful, innocent life. Derek had tried to prevent this moment, had tried to make sure Sophie never drew breath. But she was here, strong and healthy and absolutely perfect. Vincent cried. So did Maggie. Rachel took photos. The nurse smiled and said Sophie was gorgeous, and Cassie felt a peace she had not known was possible. Your name is Sophia Margaret Reynolds, Cassie said to her daughter. No hyphen, just Reynolds, and you're going to have the most amazing life, I promise. The sentencing hearing was 2 weeks later. Cassie's body was still healing from childbirth, but she was there, with Sophie, with her family, ready to see justice done. The courthouse was packed, media everywhere, Derek's family on one side, Cassie's family on the other. Like a terrible wedding. Derek was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, shackles on his wrists and ankles. He had lost weight, his hair was longer, gray at the temples. He looked older than 36. Prison was aging him rapidly. He looked at Cassie, at Sophie in her arms. Something crossed his face. Regret, longing, calculation. Cassie could not tell and did not care. Judge Robert Caldwell entered. Everyone stood, then sat. The prosecutor outlined the charges, all the evidence, all the witnesses, all the testimony. Derek's attorney tried one last time. Your Honor, my client has suffered tremendously. His business is destroyed. His reputation is ruined. His family has abandoned him. He's lost everything except his life. Surely that's punishment enough. Punishment enough? The prosecutor stood. Derek Hartman locked his 7 months pregnant wife inside a burning building. He poured accelerant throughout their home. He sealed the windows. He drove away and waited for news of her death so he could collect $3 million in insurance money. He had already purchased tickets to leave the country, already had a new life plan with his mistress. The only reason he didn't succeed is because his wife was strong enough to break through a second-story window and jump to the ground. She could have died. Her baby could have died. Firefighters could have died trying to rescue her. Punishment enough? He hasn't begun to face the consequences he deserves. Judge Caldwell looked at Derek. Do you have anything to say before I pass sentence? Derek stood. His lawyer whispered something to him. Derek shook his head, looked at Cassie. I never meant to hurt you, he said. It got out of control, the fire, everything. I panicked. I made mistakes. But I loved you. I loved our daughter. I never wanted this. Lies, every word. But Cassie did not flinch, did not react, just held Sophie and stared back at him. Let him see exactly what he had lost, what he would never have again. Judge Caldwell's expression hardened. Mr. Hartman, I've presided over hundreds of criminal cases, murders, assaults, terrible crimes committed by desperate people, but I have never seen anything as cold and calculated as what you did to your wife. You didn't commit a crime of passion. You planned her death. You methodically locked her in. You made sure she couldn't escape. You lit the fire and left her to burn, while carrying your child, while trusting you to protect her. And then you went to your mistress and drank champagne. Derek's face paled. He tried to interrupt. Your Honor, I'm not finished. You showed no remorse. You attempted to intimidate witnesses. Your brother attempted to threaten your wife on your behalf. You took a plea deal off the table by refusing to admit what you did. And now you stand here asking for mercy. The same mercy you didn't show your wife. The same mercy you didn't show your unborn daughter. The judge paused, let the words hang in the air, then continued. I'm sentencing you to 45 years in prison. You will serve a minimum of 30 years before being eligible for parole. You will pay restitution of $3 million. You will have no contact with your wife or daughter for the duration of your sentence. And you will spend every day for the next 30 years thinking about the choices that brought you here. Derek collapsed into his chair. His attorney put a hand on his shoulder, said something Cassie could not hear, but she did not care, because it was over. Derek was going to prison for 30 years minimum, probably longer. He would be 66 when he got out, if he got out. An old man who had thrown away his life for money and ego. The bailiff led Derek away. He did not look back, did not look at Cassie or Sophie, just shuffled out in his shackles. Gone. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, questions shouted, cameras flashing. Thomas handled it, made a brief statement about justice being served, about Cassie's courage, about Sophie's future. Cassie did not speak, just held her daughter. Let the cameras capture them. Mother and daughter, survivors, strong and free and alive. Vincent drove them home, to the estate that had become their sanctuary. Maggie made tea. Rachel heated up casserole someone had dropped off. They sat in the living room, Sophie sleeping in Cassie's arms. And slowly the reality settled in. It was over. The threat was gone. Derek would never hurt them again. How do you feel? Rachel asked. Cassie considered the question. Empty. I thought I'd feel triumphant, vindicated, but mostly I just feel tired. Like I've been fighting for so long, and now I don't know what to do with peace. That's normal, Maggie said. You've been in survival mode for months. Your body needs time to understand that the danger has passed. Do you regret the trial? Vincent asked, refusing the plea deal. No, I needed everyone to see the truth, needed it on record, needed Derek to face what he did without any way to minimize it or pretend it was less than it was. Cassie looked down at Sophie, and I needed her to be able to look up the case someday, Read the transcripts. See that her mother fought, that justice mattered, that truth won. They sat in comfortable silence, the fire crackling in the fireplace, the afternoon light fading to evening, everything soft and warm and safe. Sophie woke, started to fuss. Cassie fed her, changed her, rocked her back to sleep. The ordinary rhythms of new motherhood, beautiful and exhausting, and everything Derek had tried to prevent. That night, for the first time in months, Cassie slept through until morning. No nightmares, no locked doors, no fire, just deep, peaceful, dreamless sleep. When she woke, Sophie was stirring in the bassinet beside her bed. Morning light filtered through the curtains. A new day, the first day of their life after Derek. Cassie picked up her daughter, held her close. "Good morning, baby girl. Ready to start living?" Sophie yawned, tiny fist near her mouth, completely unaware of the battle that had been fought for her, the sacrifices made, the danger survived, and that was exactly how it should be. Sophie would grow up safe, loved, protected. She would know about her father eventually, know the truth, but it would not define her, would not limit her, would not make her afraid, because Cassie would make sure of that, would raise Sophie to be strong, to trust her instincts, to never make herself small for anyone, to fight when necessary, and to choose peace when possible. Derek thought he could erase them. Instead, he had given them both a second chance, a new beginning, a life built on truth and strength and love. The fire was supposed to end them. Instead, it had forged them into something unbreakable. 6 months after Derek's sentencing, Cassie stood in her new home. Not the estate, not a mansion, just a modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood. Hers, bought with her own money from selling the burned house's land. Her sanctuary. Sophie was 6 months old, sitting up, laughing, starting to eat solid foods. She had Cassie's eyes and Derek's dark hair and a personality that was entirely her own, fierce and determined and absolutely joyful. Rachel sat at the kitchen table drinking coffee, watching Cassie make breakfast. "This place looks good, really good. It feels good, like mine in a way nowhere else ever has." Cassie scrambled eggs. Toast popped up. Simple breakfast. Perfect morning. "I never realized how much of myself I gave up in my marriage. How I decorated around Derek's taste, cooked his favorite meals, watched his preferred shows. I became this supporting character in someone else's life. And now I'm the main character of my own story, me and Sophie, writing our own narrative." The doorbell rang. Cassie wiped her hands and went to answer it, a delivery, large box. She signed for it and dragged it inside. "What's that?" Rachel asked. "Materials for the foundation. I'm starting it officially next month, the Sophie Foundation, for domestic violence survivors. Help with legal fees, therapy, housing, job training, all the things I was lucky enough to have access to, but most women don't." Rachel's eyes widened. "You're serious? You're actually doing it?" "Why not? I have the resources, the platform, the experience, and I need to do something meaningful with what happened, turn the trauma into purpose." They opened the box. Brochures, business cards, letterhead, all emblazoned with the foundation's logo. A phoenix rising from flames, some obvious symbolism but accurate. Cassie's phone buzzed. Text from Dr. Monroe, checking in. They still had weekly sessions. Probably would for a while. PTSD did not disappear overnight. But it was manageable now. The nightmares had faded to once or twice a month. She could be in closed rooms without panicking, could smell smoke without spiraling. She was healing, slowly, imperfectly, but definitely healing. Another text, this one from Thomas. Derek had tried to appeal his sentence. The appeal had been denied. He would serve his full 30 years minimum. No early release, no special treatment. Good. Let him sit in that cell and think about his choices, about what he had sacrificed, about what he would never have again. Cassie did not hate Derek anymore. That had been a surprise. Somewhere between the sentencing and now, the hatred had faded, replaced by something like pity. He had destroyed his own life, lost his freedom, his family, his future, all for $3 million that he would never see. Meanwhile, Cassie was free, happy, building a life that mattered. She had won, not through revenge, but through simply surviving, through choosing to heal instead of staying broken, through refusing to let Derek's violence define her forever. "Mom wants to know if you're coming to dinner Sunday," Rachel said, scrolling through her phone. "She's making that pasta thing you like." "Tell her yes, we'll be there," Sophie babbled from her bouncer, reaching for a toy, missing, trying again, persistent, determined. She would reach that toy eventually, would master sitting, then crawling, then walking. Every milestone a victory, just like Cassie. Every day she got up and chose to live fully was a victory. Every smile, every laugh, every moment of peace, all victories over the man who had tried to take everything. That afternoon, Cassie took Sophie for a walk. The November air was cold but not unbearable. She bundled her daughter in soft blankets, pushed the stroller through their neighborhood, past houses decorated for Thanksgiving, past families raking leaves, past normal life that had once seemed impossible. She passed a house for sale, the same model as hers, similar lot, and for just a moment, she imagined Derek, what he might have been doing if he had made different choices, if he had just gotten divorced like a normal person instead of attempting murder. He would have had weekends with Sophie, would have paid child support, would have rebuilt his business and his reputation, would have married Vanessa if he wanted, would have had 2 daughters, a messy but livable life. Instead, he had chosen fire, destruction, death, and now he had nothing. Cassie did not feel guilty about that, did not feel responsible. His choices, his consequences. She had simply refused to be his victim. That evening, after Sophie was asleep, Cassie sat in her living room, laptop open, working on the Foundation's website, writing her story, not all the details, but enough. Enough to help other women recognize danger, to trust their instincts, to know they could survive. People kept asking if she felt closure. The answer was always no. Closure implied an ending, a door shutting, a chapter finished. But trauma did not work that way. The fire was part of her now, part of her story. Some days she barely thought about it. Other days it consumed her. That was life with PTSD. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Progress but not perfection. And that was okay. She did not need to be perfect. Just present. Just willing to keep moving forward. Rachel came over around 9, brought wine. They sat on the couch and talked about nothing important. Rachel's new job, their college reunion next year, the best place to get Sophie's first birthday pictures taken, normal conversations, normal life. Everything Derek had tried to steal. "Do you ever think about him?" Rachel asked. "Wonder what he's doing." "Sometimes. I imagine him in a cell, probably blaming me, probably telling himself he's the victim, that I overreacted, that he didn't deserve this." Cassie sipped her wine. "But then I remember I don't care. His internal narrative is his problem, not mine." That's healthy. That's survival. I can't waste energy on Derek's feelings. I have a daughter to raise, a foundation to build, a life to live. He gets whatever mental space is left over after that, which is almost none. They watched a movie, some romantic comedy, light and forgettable. When it ended, Rachel headed home. Cassie checked on Sophie, still sleeping, perfect and peaceful and safe. Cassie stood in the nursery doorway, watching her daughter breathe, watching her little chest rise and fall, watching proof that they had survived, that they were stronger than Derek had been cruel. "Your father is a very bad man," Cassie whispered. "Someday I'll tell you the whole story, when you're old enough, when you're ready. And I'll tell you how we survived him, how we built something beautiful from ashes, how we turned pain into purpose." Sophie slept on, unaware, innocent, exactly as she should be. Cassie went to her own room, changed into pajamas, climbed into bed. The house settled around her, creaks and sighs, the normal sounds of a home at night. No smoke alarms, no locked doors, no fires, just peace. She thought about the woman she used to be, the one who tiptoed around Derek's moods, who ignored red flags, who made herself smaller to accommodate his ego. That woman was gone, had burned up in the fire, and Cassie did not miss her. This version was better, stronger, more honest, less willing to accept less than she deserved. Derek had not meant to create this version, had tried to destroy her entirely. But fire did strange things. Sometimes it reduced everything to ash. Sometimes it burned away impurities and left something stronger behind. Cassie had been refined by flame, forged into steel, and now she was unbreakable. She closed her eyes, fell asleep easily, and dreamed not of fire but of spring, of gardens blooming, of Sophie running through grass, of laughter and sunshine and peace. The fire was behind her now, not forgotten, but integrated. Part of her story, but not her whole story. She was Cassandra Reynolds, mother, survivor, fighter, founder of the Sophie Foundation, woman who had jumped from a burning building and lived to tell about it. And her story was just beginning. People kept asking if she felt closure, but Cassie did not think closure was real. Trauma was not a door you could shut. It was more like a garden. You planted new things, pulled weeds, watered what you wanted to grow. Some days were beautiful. Some days you found dead spots, but you kept tending. And eventually you realized you were not defined by what tried to destroy you. You were defined by what you chose to build after. Derek tried to end her. Instead, he gave her clarity, purpose, a fierce determination to build a life so strong that his shadow could never reach them. The fire was supposed to destroy everything. Instead, it burned away everything false. What remained was stronger than Derek ever imagined. And now she got to show her daughter what real strength looked like. Not the kind that destroyed others, but the kind that rebuilt yourself. The kind that turned pain into purpose and trauma into triumph. 1 year later, Cassie stood on a small stage, the Sophie Foundation's first fundraiser. 200 people in attendance, donors, survivors, advocates, all gathered to support women escaping violence. Sophie was with Maggie in the front row, 13 months old, standing now, taking wobbly steps, growing into the fierce little girl Cassie had always known she would be. "Thank you all for coming," Cassie said into the microphone. "A year ago, my husband tried to murder me by locking me in our burning house while I was 7 months pregnant. He failed. And tonight, we celebrate that failure by launching a foundation dedicated to helping other women survive their own fires. Whether those fires are literal or metaphorical, whether they're physical, violence or emotional abuse, or financial control, we're here to help, to support, to believe survivors when they tell us their truth." The audience applauded. Cassie saw Derek's name nowhere. She did not mention him beyond that initial sentence. Because this was not about him. This was about every woman who had ever been told she was overreacting. Every woman who had ignored her instincts. Every woman who had survived despite someone's attempt to destroy her. This was about transformation, about refusing to stay in the ashes, about rising and building and thriving. After the speeches, after the donors had pledged their support, after the survivors had shared their stories, Cassie held Sophie and looked out at the life they had built. Derek was in prison. Mitchell was in prison. The house was gone. The marriage was gone. Everything from before had burned away. And from those ashes, something better had emerged. Something stronger. Something real. Cassie kissed her daughter's forehead. "We did it, baby girl. We survived. And now we get to help others do the same." Sophie giggled, reached for Cassie's necklace, grabbed it with strong little fingers. Determined, fierce, absolutely unstoppable. Just like her mother.